In a letter to an associate, Baldwin gave this advice. He said, "We want also to look like patriots in everything we do. We want to get a good lot of flags, talk a great deal about the Constitution and what our forefathers wanted to make of this country, and to show that we are the folks that really stand for the spirit of the Constitution." Among the founding membership of the ACLU were such notables as William Foster, who later became the head of the above-ground Communist Party, USA. Felix Frankfurter, who later became a Supreme Court justice. Dr. Harry Ward of the Union Theological Seminary, who later became famous for his books and speeches in defense of the Soviet Union. And Elizabeth Gurley Flynn, who later became an official spokesman for the Communist Party. It was inevitable that the ACLU would become the first non-communist organization to oppose the investigative committees. It carried out a public opinion campaign in favor of the censure of Senator McCarthy, and by 1960 had made the abolition of the House Committee on Un-American Activities one of its primary objectives. One of the functions of the ACLU is to provide free legal services. Most of its officials are lawyers, and many of them belong to an organization known as the National Lawyers Guild. The National Lawyers Guild was formed in 1937 with the assistance of the American branch of an agency of the Soviet Comintern. It has been described by the communists themselves as a transmission belt for the Soviet underground. A committee of Congress officially declared it to be the legal bulwark of the Communist Party. Members of the National Lawyers Guild have provided legal defense and, in some cases, financial assistance to such groups as the Weather Underground Organization, the Puerto Rican FALN terrorists, the Black Panther Party, the American Indian Movement, and the Symbionese Liberation Army. In 1975, William Kunstler and other members of the National Lawyers Guild offered their support to the leaders of the West German terrorist Red Army Fraction, better known as the Baader-Meinhof Gang. They even attempted to send a team of lawyers to Germany to aid in their legal defense. One of the members of that team was Ramsey Clark, former Attorney General of the United States. Perhaps the most conspicuous group within the National Lawyers Guild has been the New York law firm of Rabinowitz, Boudin and Standard. Leonard Boudin is the father of Kathy Boudin, one of the leaders of the Weather Underground organization. Victor Rabinowitz, his law partner, has been identified as a member of the Communist Party, and their law firm is an official agent of Cuba in United States courts. By the early 1950s, the Communist Party had launched 3 additional organizations designed to build public opposition to the investigation of communism. The first of these fronts was called the Civil Rights Congress, which used the theme of defending minority rights as a means of raising money for the legal defense of Communist Party leaders. The second was the National Committee to Abolish the Un-American Activities Committee, in which 7 of the 13 national officers were identified members of the Communist Party. The third was the Emergency Civil Liberties Committee, officially cited in 1958 as a communist front. Frank Wilkinson has been an organizer for both the National Committee to Abolish the Un-American Activities Committee and the Emergency Civil Liberties Committee. On 2 separate occasions, he has been identified in congressional hearings as a member of the Communist Party. Wilkinson currently is head of a new organization, the National Committee Against Repressive Legislation, and is sought after as a public speaker, particularly on college campuses, where he is presented merely as an advocate of civil liberties. Let us turn now to an actual event to see how these people and organizations have been able to achieve their objective. The event was a public hearing before the House Committee on Un-American Activities held in San Francisco on May 12, 1960. The purpose of the hearing was to gather testimony regarding the influence of the Communist Party in the San Francisco area. Frank Wilkinson is one of the first organizers to arrive on the scene. Working through a group called the Citizens Committee to Preserve American Freedoms, he helps coordinate the distribution of thousands of copies of his speech by Congressman James Roosevelt, in which the House Committee on Un-American Activities is bitterly attacked. Funding for this project comes from the Communist Party.
Well, have you had anything to do with the demonstrations in front of the City Hall today?
No, I've just been an observer of those.
Wilkinson and other members of the Soviet apparatus in California formulate a 4-point strategy for attack against the committee. First, they will generate public opposition to the hearing by claiming it is